What a year it has been. 2025 began with Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister, but his resignation on January 6th triggered a political reset in this country that few expected. At the time, the Liberals were trailing the Conservatives in public opinion polling by more than 20 points. But then Mark Carney became Liberal leader, and he went into the federal election campaign pitching himself as the best leader to take on U.S. President Donald Trump. The Liberals won a minority, the Conservatives gained seats across the country, but Pierre Poilievre lost the seat that he had held for 20 years. As for the NDP, well, they lost their leader and party status. From floor crossings to turbulent trade talks, we've had 3 years' worth of political events. But what came out as the top moment? Let's ask our front bench for their picks. Plus, we've got them. We're going to give us their hot takes for 2026. Sabrina Grover was the federal Liberal candidate in the 2021 election. She is a senior advisor at North Star Public Affairs. Melanie Paradis is the former communications director to Aaron O'Toole. She's now the president of Texture Communications. Former interim NDP national director Carl Belanger is here. He's now the president of Traction Strategies, and CTV News national correspondent Rachel Aiello. Welcome to the last Power Play of this year, everyone. Thank you for being here. Sabrina, start with you. What was your standout political moment of 2025?
I mean, going first, it's going to be an easy one for me. I think the rapid turnaround in the Liberal fortunes for the year and their capturing of a fourth mandate here in Canada. I think that Mark Carney coming from what I would say is an underdog positioning at the beginning of the year. I think when you think back to the positioning and the way that we talked about Mark Carney, people talked about him likening him to Michael Ignatieff, where we weren't going to see a success. He wasn't going to come around. Pierre Poilievre was certain to win a majority government. And, just a few months later, not only do we have Mark Carney winning government again, but in the last, month and a half, we've seen 2 floor crossers putting us just 1 seat shy of a majority. So that has to be a political standout for me, for sure.
Melanie, I'm pretty sure this is the first time that Mark Carney has ever been called an underdog in his life, and probably the last time that he wants to hear that. But what was your top political story?
Oh, I mean, Justin Trudeau's resignation itself was a political moment of a decade. But if I have to think about something that's actually going to have an impact well beyond 2025, I actually think it's the NATO 5% commitment that was made this year. I think that it's going to completely refocus the economic attention of many of our provinces. We're already starting to see them move towards attracting more defense industrial companies to come and build up manufacturing in Canada. We clearly have a buyer. It's the Canadian government. They're going to be spending an enormous amount of money in defense. It's really good news for our military. They're getting a pay raise, which they've long deserved. So I think that that's something that is actually going to carry us forward for years to come. And that's why it's an important moment from this year for me.
Carl, what was your top political moment of 2025?
Well, I mean, obviously, Justin Trudeau's resignation changed everything. But the reality is that the biggest impact, I think, was had by Donald Trump and the tariffs. Mm-hmm. That's what changed the political dynamic of the federal politics here. Donald Trump is the one that scared voters in a way, that really polarized the electorate. And I think that's what you saw in 2025. But it's hard to, when you watch all these clips, it's hard to think that this was just this year.
Yeah.
This was all happened this year. It's incredible. It was so spectacular this year, and I don't think we'll live this again in 2026. I don't think it will be as spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we say that now, but then, of course,
who knows?
At this time next year, Rachel, you've got the unenviable task of batting cleanup here and trying to pick one that maybe others didn't pick. So what do you think?
Yeah, okay, so I will disappoint in saying I'm not picking one that others didn't, but my big moment was just Trump getting back into office.
Yeah.
Putting Donald Trump back in the White House was the catalyst for so much of the trajectory of our politics this year. It was directly contributing to the discourse, what was happening with the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau into Mark Carney, the entire elbows up movement that, from the federal government's perspective, seems to have gone away. And then how both the Conservatives and the NDP during the federal election campaign really struggled to find a good counterbalance, a talking point to seize Canadians' attention on it. And I do think it was also catalyst for some of the key moments we saw from premiers this year. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith going down there. Of course, this entire Alberta-Ottawa MOU kind of born out of this. We need to build up Canada sentiment. And then, of course, all of the various headlines of Doug Ford over the year, pouring out whiskey, going to town on a Chapman's ice cream bar. All of that was directly because of Donald Trump.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he also swallowed a bee this year, which was another thing that we didn't have on our bingo card there. Okay, Melanie, I'm going to call you out here because you've been bringing it all year. So, as the queen of hot takes, you're going to give us your first hot take for 2026.
Okay, so this one isn't sexy, but I think it's kind of an underdog issue. It's my dark horse for 2026, and that's prison politics. And the reason for that is bail reform has been such an important issue for the past couple of months. We're seeing multiple provinces calling on the federal government to do more in terms of bail reform, and we're seeing the federal government responding with some policies around that and legislation. But what that's going to necessitate is a build out of prisons, because our prisons are already full. Nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to be spending money on this, but all the provinces and the federal government are going to have to do that. And I think in 2026, it's a sleeper issue. We're going to see investments in addiction and mental health treatment facilities and in the prison system.
Instead of orange is the new black, I think we're going to call this prison is the new trade. Sabrina, what's your hot take for 2026?
I think the defining issue of 2026 is going to be First Nations relationships and reconciliation. You already saw some of that groundwork being laid this year. I think we've seen a really turbulent relationship between Canada and a number of First Nations governments, including some of the recent happenings at AFN. And I think it was really a hallmark moment for Mark Carney to say that First Nations chiefs were going to be invited to an FPT meeting in 2026. I think that is remarkable. I think there are also some key pieces of legislation, things like water legislation, that need to move forward, in addition to that big, elephant in the room, which is major projects and how that continues to evolve when with First Nations, not just in BC, but also in the James Bay Ring of Fire region, as well as, of course, in Alberta, when it comes to things like separation and those kinds of things. I think First Nations and the relationship between Canadian governments, premiers and Prime Minister, with First Nation governments across the country is going to be spectacularly important in 2026.
Okay, Rachel, your hot take for 2026?
Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau get engaged? No. I actually think we could see an NDP floor crosser, depending on the way the NDP leadership shakes out, who gets chosen.
Carl's got nothing. He's got no. Sorry, continue.
No, it's just depending on who is selected as the next leader, are all of them feeling as rah-rah behind that person? Is there some freeing up of things once Don Davies is no longer interim with his ardent declaration? None of them would cross the floor. I don't know. We'll see.
Carl, top that one.
Well, we'll see. But I think what's going to happen in 2026 that's going to change the dynamic is referendum, baby. Like maybe one, maybe two referendum, because we know what's going to happen in Alberta. But we have the PQ in the lead. We have a Liberal Party in Quebec who imploded. We have the CAQ, which is going nowhere. And so, frankly, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is going to enter government in this year. And then we're going to enter the next referendum cycle, something that we haven't seen since 1995.
I hate that you say cycle, because that is as a Quebecer, somebody who grew up in the province, this is.
Well, I mean, the referendum is
thing.
not going to happen this year, but the discussion about the referendum will happen this year. It will be the start. So that's what I mean by cycle, because of course, who knows when he's going to hold it, but it's going to be the beginning of that cycle, starting in October.
Right, and we're all supposed to be Team Canada facing the United States.
Yeah, and that conversation as to whether or not one member of the team wants to maybe sit on the sidelines.
Exactly.
That's something. Okay.